Of course, the allegations being levied by Republicans are only one half of the story. For the counter-argument, we want to bring on Laura Fink, a Democratic strategist and the CEO for Rebelle Communications. So, Laura, right now the campaign has been very different than prior campaigns that we've seen in the past. We've seen the candidates be resorted to essentially staying at home. Joe Biden specifically, President Trump has been, of course, doing his duties as president, but he hasn't been campaigning the same way that maybe he was in previous elections. Judging by what's going on right now, how would you grade the way that the Biden campaign is adjusting to this moment?
Well, right now, I think that's absolutely correct. And I think that what Joe Biden is doing is everything he can. I think the challenges for an incumbent or for a non-incumbent is that the incumbent does have a platform. But we've seen that the platform has been hurting Donald Trump. That's why he's reeled back his daily briefings. It's actually been damaging his approval rating, damaging voters' trust in him, watching those numbers decline over the course of this coronavirus crisis. And so I think that it really depends on how you look at it. You know, Joe Biden in recent weeks has come out on the attack. Ultimately, this is a referendum on who you think can help the country recover from coronavirus, both from an economic perspective and also from a health perspective, which we know are completely tied.
And we know for the most part, as we move ahead throughout this, I mean, Republicans say, for example, that Joe Biden is hiding in his basement and he actually isn't putting himself out there too much. But to your point, throughout that time, his approval rating has ticked up, at least in a lot of the polls. And President Trump has dialed back exactly what you're saying regarding those coronavirus briefings, presumably because the public was no longer interested in them. But we know what a lot of conservative media outlets are going to focus on moving forward, right? It's going to be Tara Reade allegations. It's going to be Hunter Biden in Ukraine. It's going to be his record with China, stuff like that. And then we see the latest developments regarding unmasking. How should the Biden campaign deal with those issues that we know is going to be talked a lot of, especially in right-wing media?
Well, I think ultimately in any campaign, you're going to have the mudslinging, but we're seeing that to an extreme degree during this crisis. But one of the things, more than ever, we see that Americans are concerned with pocketbook issues and health issues. And so are these distractions going to dissuade them from focusing on that? Ultimately, what Joe Biden needs to do is what he's been doing. And we've seen improvement. So, for example, with seniors, we've seen Biden's numbers tick up appreciably. It's because seniors are concerned about two things. One is obviously their health, but the second, they're seeing higher rates of unemployment. We have historic unemployment, the highest rate of unemployment since the Great Depression on Trump's watch, and we see it impacting seniors even more. So they are concerned. And right now, they're saying that they trust Joe Biden with this economy more. Now, that's a reversal. Democrats haven't won seniors, people over 65, since 1996. So this is a tremendous stride for the Biden campaign. He needs to maintain that senior lead and then expand his lead in other groups as we move forward.
And when you talk about the unemployment rate, it's worth noting that this is during a time of unprecedented action by the government where they're telling people to stay home. I think that is something that complicates the issue in general. I mean, something like 30 million Americans at this point have applied for unemployment. So I think the big question comes, who do the American people trust to come out of this crisis? And I know that the Trump campaign will focus on the anemic growth rate coming out of the 2008 race. How should the Biden campaign respond to that? Because I know that's going to be something that comes up.
Well, the anemic growth rate that you refer to is also followed on a historic, unprecedented rate of economic growth and job growth recovering from the 2008 crisis. So I think you'll hear Joe Biden talk a lot about that, talk about saving the auto industry, talk about economic recovery and what we need to do to get money in the pockets of everyday Americans. And I think you're also going to hear him talk a lot about healthcare, because this isn't your average economic crisis. It's tied. We need to succeed on the health front. We need to combat the coronavirus. We need to deploy testing. We need to make sure hospitals and first responders have resources, and we need to show that the government is credible and impactful in doing that, because there's nobody else to do it. And so Joe Biden has those challenges. So far, his campaign is really focused on Trump's failures, his failure to respond to the coronavirus when he was notified of it months ago, his failure to deploy full national resources to get states what they need, and now his failure to deploy a concrete set of standards and mass testing and tracing so that the economy can reopen again. And so I think you're going to hear Joe Biden talking a lot about those issues as we head into November.
And I think there are some valid concerns that you bring up right there, specifically when it comes to testing. But I know what the Trump campaign will say in response to Joe Biden on that front is that when President Trump, for example, issued the travel restrictions on China, Joe Biden that day called that action xenophobic. So I think that it's going to be an obstacle for the Biden campaign to match that messaging. But I do want to speak on one more issue. Something in 2016 that was a big issue for Hillary Clinton's campaign is that she couldn't garner the support of the progressive base, particularly Senator Bernie Sanders supporters. Do you fear that going into 2020, that same type of issue will once again resurface, where Bernie supporters don't come out and vote for Joe Biden?
Well, I think that this online campaign actually provides a tremendous medium in which to reach younger voters. And we see that outreach beginning with the Biden campaign partnering with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a huge fan of the progressive left, and really working on things like climate change that young people care about. Ultimately, though, you know what young people care about? They care that their health is protected, and they care about making sure that they have opportunities economically. So Joe Biden will be measured on those fronts. And it doesn't matter if you're a Bernie supporter or if you voted for Trump in 2016. Those are the folks that need to be addressed and the challenges that they face moving forward with regard to economic inequality, which is what Sanders really campaigned on. Wall Street and big corporations taking advantage and not providing quality job opportunities is an issue that they still will face even more so today.
Yeah, that goes along with the idea of this unity ticket that they're putting out there. Before the Super Tuesday, we all remember Pete Buttigieg dropping out, Amy Klobuchar dropping out, and now there's speculation that I should say that maybe those people will be part of his cabinet, and that includes some other progressive members as well. Elizabeth Warren, of course, is still in the mix. Bernie Sanders is on that joint task force that we were talking about, but Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I think, is a big addition because she gets the messaging out to young people that may not be on board with the Biden campaign just yet, and they're going to need every vote in Wisconsin and Michigan this time around if they want to avoid the mistakes that Hillary Clinton made in 2016. I think you're spot on for saying that. Laura, I really appreciate you coming on tonight and giving us the other perspective of this issue. Thank you.